Jennifer, what have you learned?
Well, what we've learned, actually, John, is from British sources, and it relates to that attack on Gaddafi's compound in the capital Tripoli last night. We were among the first to report that there were 2 British Tomahawk missiles that fired on that compound, fired from submarines in the Mediterranean. Now we have learned that the British fighter jets had 7 missiles. They were, in fact, going to be fired from Tornado fighter planes onto that compound, but the mission had to be cut short because of the presence of CNN television crews and Reuters journalists on the ground who had been taken to the site by the Libyan Ministry of Information. So the British generals in charge of the operation and flying those Tornado planes called off the operation to fire those 7 missiles that were supposed to be fired at Gaddafi's compound at what is being described as a command and control center to us because of the presence of CNN crews, Reuters crews, as well as some civilians that had been brought essentially as human shields by the Ministry of Information to that compound, Gaddafi's compound in Tripoli, John.
Let me get a little deeper into the timeline here. Would this have been after the first 2 cruise missiles struck? Is that when the news crews and so forth were taken in there?
That's exactly right. It was about 4:30 p.m. Eastern yesterday when the first smoke rose from Gaddafi's compound. 2 Tomahawk missiles had been fired from the British submarine that is in the Mediterranean right now. It's the HMS Triumph. After those Tomahawks landed, the Ministry of Information, Libyan Ministry of Information, went to the hotel where most of the journalists were staying. They asked journalists to come and see the damage. They wanted, this was, from their point of view, a propaganda opportunity to show that Gaddafi himself was being targeted because his compound had been targeted. Some news crews decided to go. Others, including our Steve Harrigan, did not go to the compound. They were concerned that they could be used as human shields. And what we are now learning is that British Defense Forces had to call off Tornado fighter planes that were loaded with 7 missiles that were destined for that compound because of the presence of those news crews on the ground. There was a Reuters crew as well as a CNN crew, as well as about 15 other journalists, and then some Libyan civilians that had been brought to the scene, John.
Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon Force. Thanks.